Welcome to Viking Preparedness. I am Pastor Joe Fox. I took a break from siding my porch. I was inside drinking coffee, and I started thinking about some things. You know, the world going crazy, what's going on in the Middle East, what's going on with our elections, what's going on with, everything, right? Amp up the noise, amp up the noise. And it's like, all right, what can we do positive? What can you do positive? Maybe what can I give you as advice for steps you can take to deal with, as I like to say, what's coming down the pike? And so I made a list of 5 things, 5 skills that I think you should learn if you don't already know, and actually 5 related skill sets that kind of bounce off of those that you should acquire to help you deal with, TEOTWAWKI, world without rule of law, post-apocalyptic world, and whatever other, SHTF, whatever other acronym you want to use. And so here's 5 things you can do to better yourself and your circle, right? The first one is this: build a fire. You need to know how to build a fire. And I'm not talking pouring gasoline on something and using your Bic. You need to be able to go out in the woods when they're wet with rain and dew and snow and build a good campfire. So go learn how to do that. This is not a how-to video. And then the skill set related to that you really do need to pursue and get good at is camping, right? Camping without all the gizmos. Camping with just simple things like they used to camp in the 50s, Go out there, set up camp, set up your hooch, set up your tent, build a fire, cook a simple meal over a fire, take care of hygiene while you're out there, all that stuff camping. So the first skill is fire building. The second, the related skill set, if you will, is camping. The second skill that you need to have is, how do you deal with a major bleed? Somebody's out there doing something and whack, machete hits them and blood starts spurting out of their arm. What are you going to do? Are you going to blanch and pass out? Hopefully not, right? You need to know how to deal with a major bleed, because a major bleed can kill somebody quickly. So learn how to deal with that. The related skill set, you got it, right? First aid. You need to learn first aid. If I was king, I'd make every high school student take a good first aid class instead of some of the other nonsense that we have these guys and girls take. But learn how to deal with a major bleed, and then if you can, sign yourself up for a first aid course. All right, number 3, skill set that I think you need to have to deal with what's coming. You need to learn how to counter a sucker punch. You do. You can learn a lot on YouTube, and then go practice it with your buddy, practice it with your spouse. Don't hit each other, for real. But you need to learn how to do that, because sucker punches are like, you can have a sucker punch come out of nowhere for many different scenarios. And you could be making a deal after the event. You could be trying to just get gas and somebody comes up to talk to you, and the next thing you know, pow, you're down. And so learn how to deal with a sucker punch. And then the related skill set is self-defense. You really need to be confident in your ability to defend yourself against somebody who's bigger and stronger than you are. That takes a little time. In a lot of cases it takes money, not all cases. And, there's a lot of different ways you can go there. I'll tell you this, people won't like this, and maybe even be comments. If you don't know anything, any martial art is better than nothing, right? So instead of going, I don't know which martial art to take, go ahead and take Taekwondo if that's the only thing available. Were it me, and I was giving you real advice, I'd say, hey, try and find a Krav Maga gym, workout place. I'm not saying that because they're Israeli. I'm saying that because it's all just really basic moves. It's like basic army combatives, and it's gross body movement, so it's pretty good. Boxing, Thai kickboxing, but I'm not talking about the exercise. I'm talking about real fighting, right? But learn some self-defense. That's the related skill set. But the skill that you need to know how to do is how to deal with the sucker punch, right? All right. I wrote them down so I wouldn't forget for you. Let me just look here. Oh, yeah. Another skill you need to have, and you can work on this here directly, grow a tomato and then eat it. Grow a tomato. Have you done that? A lot of you will be like, yeah, absolutely. I've got a huge garden in my backyard, Pastor Joe. Awesome. I'm glad you do. There's a lot of people who don't. And there's lots of excuses, but you can grow a tomato on your porch, if you want to. And then the related skill set to that is gardening. Right? Because it doesn't really matter how much food you store, eventually you're probably going to need to produce stuff. Food being one of those things you're going to have to produce. And gardening for most people is a pretty steep learning curve. So the earlier you get started in gardening, the better you'll do when you need the garden, when you need to eat what you produce, when you won't get much to eat if you don't produce it. So start working on gardening as a skill set. Start out by growing a tomato as the skill. And then the fifth skill that I think you need to have to deal with what's coming down the pike is how to befriend a stranger. Ooh, that could probably make some of you people break out in hives, right? But you need to know how to go up to somebody who you absolutely do not know and befriend them. At least establish rapport with them, get a working relationship, a friendly, mutually beneficial relationship going on. And then the skill set that is related to that you all could probably work on is how to get along with people, right? How to get along with other people. It's easy to get along with people you like. That's easy. How do you get along with those people that you don't really like? Because, the fact that you don't like them doesn't necessarily mean that they're bad people. The fact that you don't like them or don't get along with them for whatever reason does not mean that they might not be useful to you and yours with what's coming. And so work on those skill sets. Learn how to build a fire and camp. Learn how to stop a bleed and first aid. Learn how to deal with a sucker punch and self-defense. Learn how to grow a tomato and plant a garden. And learn how to befriend a stranger and get along with people. You can work on all those things starting right now. Stretch yourself a little bit. Get better at what you do. All right, I'll see you out there.